Hello everybody, this is Joseph P. Farrow with news and views from the Nefarium, April 26, 2013. We are in the year beyond Thunderdome, except we're not according to some of the recent recalculations of the Mayan calendar, which we're now being told could be as late as 2016, so hold on. We're in for more apocalypse mongering. I'm still suffering some computer difficulties, so hopefully I'll make it through this news and views in good order, because I have some rather interesting articles I want to talk about. We do have a members vid chat tomorrow, and I've been asked by Georgia Ann to pass on to you that her next eye appointment is May 29th. She continues to kind of experience a few difficulties, so keep your fingers crossed and keep her in your prayers. That everything will be alright. But anyway, I am still plugging away on Covert Wars and the Clash of Civilizations, and it's it's probably my most difficult book to write to date, because I am beginning to tie together a lot of themes from a lot of books in this particular book. And that means that I am having to be very careful in how I organize the material and how I connect dots and so on. And additionally, there is so far at least 3 new, rather invaluable nuggets of information in this book. I'm kind of surprised that no one else has noticed these. To me, they're very significant, and there may be a 4th nugget that depends on some research material that I am hoping will arrive soon, because without it I cannot continue forward in the book. Anyway, as I said, I have some rather interesting articles to talk about. The first one is an article by John Rappaport, and it's called "The Ministry of Truth Makes Bombing Suspect Disappear." And I'll link these articles on the website, as I usually do, because they're germane to the wild speculation, the high-octane speculation I'm going to indulge in today. And this article concerns the suspect, Abdul Rahman Alharbi, the Saudi national that was suddenly and mysteriously deported from the United States. And Rappaport points out that Glenn Beck, the famous Mormon conservative commentator in this country, managed to get a hold of some documentation that indicated Alharbi had been classified 212-3B, which translates by the Immigration and Naturalization Service as someone with terrorist connections. And Rappaport's article points out that the Saudi connection has been quickly disappeared, particularly the connections, apparently, that this man had visited the White House. And I'm going to suggest that there's an economic background to this disappearance. And of course, it's tied to petrodollars, but not quite in the way that we might think. The other article concerns something that I think is also related. This is connecting some dots here that I think should be connected. It's not necessarily to say that this way of connecting the dots is true or correct. Again, it's my high-octane speculation. This article concerns something that is now going on in Germany. This is an article in the Daily Telegraph that says German wise men push for wealth seizure to fund EMU bailouts. And there's another article that also appears about Germany, and this is the emergence of a new political party, a movement in Germany, calling for a restructuring of the Eurozone. And the man heading this party has former International Monetary Fund and World Bank connections. And he's advancing the idea that slowly and surely Spain, Portugal, Italy, and Greece should gradually leave the Eurozone, return to their own currencies, and couple those currencies to the euro. Alright? Now, I'm going to point that article out. I'm going to highlight that, because that's rather significant for the analysis that I want to do today. Because what he's in effect arguing is that the Eurozone be split into a 2-tiered system. One for the so-called wealthy countries, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the other one for the profligate and bad countries, Spain, Italy, Portugal, and Greece. Now, all of this wouldn't be concerning me, except there has also been recent news that Zbigniew Brzezinski, our favorite friend, who seems never to grow old, has come out and argued that a EU-United States trade pact would help the West on the road to recovery. Now, this is all occurring at a time that we have this. What you're looking at is the new $100 bill that's supposed to be coming out on October 8th of this year. Alright? And this bill is really the center of my speculations here, because I suspect that this bill has kind of symbolic coding of what the banksters may be up to now. We're told, of course, that the bill is being released as there are new security measures to prevent counterfeiting. Now, I want to tie this bill to the broader economic context that I've just laid out, and to yet one final factor, and that's the bearer bonds scandals that I've written about on the website and in Covert Wars and Breakaway Civilizations. My argument, once again, in a nutshell, was that in the post-World War II period, the United States in particular undertook to construct a huge off-the-books system of finance based on Nazi and Imperial Japanese plunder from World War II that was used to leverage, to create vast systems of credit leverage within the system that were kept off the books. So in other words, it's an entirely fraudulent system, and I think that this is part of the reason why there's such a scramble to save these banks. It was kept off the books and used as a slush fund for covert political activity, number one, and given the vast sums of money involved, were also used for black projects research. So in other words, there's a whole story here that is lurking sidereally off stage that we're not seeing as the rest of these political and economic events play out. Now, I do think, and I'm sure that there will be a certain segment of the crowd watching this video that thinks that this is perhaps just too wild a speculation, but I do think that that part of the story relates to the UFO phenomenon and the attempt of these oligarchs and technocrats to deal with it. Alright, I'm not going to say how, but I do think that that is a significant component of the story. Let's look at this bill. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. Now, as you can see, on the left side of the bill, to the left of Franklin's head, you'll see the seal and symbol of the Federal Reserve System. Alright? And that's all done in more or less traditional Federal Reserve note style. And that's indeed what it says at the top of the bill, Federal Reserve Note. Alright? On the right-hand side, just to the right of the blue line bisecting the bill, you see the symbol of the United States Treasury in green, denoting a Federal Reserve note. But notice the ink bottle at the bottom is in gold. The number 100 appears in gold, and on the back we have a large number 100 appearing in gold. Alright? Now, in that ink well, what you can barely see on the camera is the silhouette or outline of the Liberty Bell. Alright? And what's also barely visible in the camera, I'll link the article so that you can look at it closer, is a gold quill. Alright? A quill pen. Now, I'm going to crawl way out on a limb and suggest that this bill, this issue, perhaps denotes the strategy of the bankers. Hello, Murray. That's Murray the parrot in the background. Denotes the strategy of the bankers in creating what may result in a two-tiered monetary structure. A public one, Federal Reserve, and a much more private one, connected with the U.S. Treasury, connected with gold. All right, and that more or less is essentially what I was arguing in Covert Wars and Breakaway Civilizations. Why? Let's go back to what I said there. That Axis plunder, which was based in large part on vast piles of bullion, became the covert property of the United States, and therefore the United States Treasury, at least insofar as recovered bullion was concerned. There was a lot of that bullion, as you know, that remained in the hands of the post-war Nazis and the Imperial Japanese family. So we have a little signification that there is a part of the economy still dealing in gold, and it's paper gold, please note, and another part of the economy dealing in, on the other half of the bill, in Federal Reserve notes. This, I think, to put it in a nutshell, this, I think, is a symbol of the fact that they are going to introduce in, or start talking about, in the coming months and years, a quote-unquote currency reform. It's a two-tiered system, and we're already watching Germany now start to angle for that kind of system within the Eurozone as a means, quote, to save the Eurozone. All right? And this, I think, is the American side of that equation. Now, why Saudi Arabia? Well, because the other thing that I think we need to remember is that there are now huge stocks of oil and natural gas fields in America that are being explored and developed. And ultimately, these fields promise an end to reliance on Middle Eastern oil. So I think the other part of this picture is we are watching the end of the petrodollar. And again, this is symbolized right there. All right? I think we're watching the end, and I think as far as the powers that be are concerned, the reason why they're keeping the Saudi part of this Boston Marathon bombing story off the radar now is that to focus on it would upset their long-term economic and monetary plans. This is what I really honestly believe is going on, and I grant you that this is wild speculation, but again, let me summarize it before I stop this news and views. We are possibly looking at now a public acknowledgement of a two-tiered system of finance. We're watching the moves begin to be talked about in Germany of moving toward that kind of system in the Eurozone, where nations return to their own national currencies but couple them to the euro as kind of a stopgap measure. And in the United States, we're looking at a bill, an actual note, that appears to me to be based on an uneasy synthesis or creation of Federal Reserve fiat money and something that is at least partially gold-backed. And we have a nice little line down the bill that might perhaps indicate the percentages of what they're dealing with. Who knows? You can never put anything past these bankers. So the thing I want you to watch now is the political and monetary discussion going on in Germany and how they're going to deal with this Saudi story. Are they going to be able to completely get it off the picture? And if not, is that Saudi angle going to be connected with monetary and financial dealings? And then finally, watch very carefully for statements now coming out of these oligarchs and technocrats like Zbigniew Brzezinski and so on about trade pacts with the European Union, and also watch very carefully how they're going to start talking possibly about currency and monetary reform in the United States, Canada, and most certainly Mexico. This is a story to watch. Now, one final note. In Covert Wars and Breakaway Civilizations, I also pointed out that gold was a code for drugs. And there has been on the internet a speculation for many years that the North American Free Trade Zone would eventually be expanded to a kind of North American Union, a kind of fusion of Canada, United States, and Mexico into a European-style union, a trade zone. And It is interesting to me that a significant portion of Mexico's economy is, of course, based on drugs. And it has always been an argument of those who've been studying this rogue group or breakaway civilization inside of American intelligence that the drug trade composed a significant portion of the source of funding for covert and black research projects. So we may be looking at something else being symbolized in this bill too. So that's it for my wild speculation for the week of April 25th, 2013. We do have a members vid chat tomorrow, and again I apologize everybody for the fact that this video may have frozen or may be freezing on the video. I hope the audio is coming through and that some of the pictures of the currency made it through so that you can examine.